I want to do a calligraphy in using the auto-digitizing. I thought I was going to have to take the time to physically set all the stitches using the tools in Bernina DesignerPlus V9. But I was pretty tickled with the way that the automatic stitches set in. Now it could be because of the way that the artist had such clean lines when she did her calligraphy. But I was real pleased with the results. I had to tweak a few things, and I'll show you those real quick. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the hoop. I'm going to turn off the grid because I'm going to be using her art, so I really don't need to worry about the placement, as far as things matching up just so. All right. I'm going to say I want this to be about 60 millimeters. Now, of course, it's measuring all of this little bit of excess too, but that really won't matter. I found that these components worked out for me. Okay, now that looks really tiny to work with, doesn't it? If we touch 0 on our keyboard, this shows you, it fills the screen for you, and it's easy to look at. I'm going to now select everything that's there, and I did that just by touching the image that is there. Now this happened to be a PNG that I was able to drag over, and it went straight into the embroidery side without any trouble. Okay, now I'm going to select a color that I want to be working with, and I may have to set that again after it's done, after it's made its stitches. I'm going to go to Auto-Digitize, and I'm just going to use the simple Auto-Digitize. It's showing me how many colors are there, black and white, super, that works. And I'll say OK. Now, I want to eliminate the white. I don't want to sew that, so I'll omit. My details for the black are fine. We'll say OK. Look how beautiful the stitches are. There's a couple of things I'm going to tweak. I'm going to be measuring to make sure that the machine is not making really long stitches. In fact, I may, I'll show you a way that you can reduce the width. Now that may not suit her, so I'll save it for her both ways. But one way to reduce something that is as bold as this is to right-click to bring up the object properties, and these are places that this is where you can set your information about the fill. I'm just going to leave it on the automatic. She doesn't really have an embroidery machine yet, so I don't know who's going to be sewing this for her. Hopefully I get to, but we'll see. Effects, and I'm not going to mess, well, they've got a little step. Let me go ahead while I'm here. Let's change that to zigzag, because I want this to embroider with a pretty satin stitch. So let's use the zigzag instead. Under others is where you're going to find pull compensation. Now what pull compensation does for you, it's how far the stitches are going to go beyond what is actually there. And it's designed for any pulling. It's a natural thing. It's a natural tendency of thread to fabric. Even if you're hand embroidering, you're going to get some pulling when you take a needle and thread to fabric. You can try to avoid it when you're hand embroidering, but it is there. So to exaggerate this, if I took this up to, actually I'll go up to 1, and you'll see we wouldn't want to sew this at all, but I do want to show it to you. So what it does is it extends those stitches so to allow for any pull, and the direction that it's going to pull in is always, it's going to pull this, I'm using my fingers, you can't see my fingers, it's going to pull this direction with that stitch direction. I said I was not going to use that. I think what I was playing around with was using like a negative, because I actually want this to be smaller. We're kind of fudging it a little bit. I'm going to use negative 0.20 and apply. There we go. So it brought it in just slightly. Now, that's also going to affect the underlay. Let's look at that. Stitch spacing, we're okay. Margin from edge. We might need, so that it doesn't, the underlay doesn't poke out, because I've taken the width slightly smaller, I may want to change from normal to margin from edge. I think maybe a medium we can get by with. Let's give it a shot. When we run the stitch player, we'll be able to see for sure. We'll do apply and OK. And I said I wanted another color. It's just vanity. But it also makes it a little brighter, and you can see the stitches. You can actually see where it's going to tie in. I'm fine with all that. Trust the software. It really does a nice job. I'm going to run the stitch player at this time just to see kind of where we are. There's my zigzag as I thought, and that's going to sufficiently cover it, so I'm okay with that. Let's stop. Oh, there we go. Now, I'm not sure how this, surely that doesn't run all the way. Surely that it should end there, and it just happened that this fit up under there is what I'm going to be assuming. So now I want to go to edit, and I'm going to actually cut those two apart. I'll use the knife tool, and right here I'll just cut. Actually, I'd like it to be a little lower. Let's cut right, so that's kind of flush to what's already there. And enter on my keyboard, and I want you to see, you may not have caught what that corner did. Let's go just back one so that you can see it. See how that has stopped there, and yet these are mitered corners. Ideally, I think I want it to be mitered corners all over. Well, it happened for me automatically. We'll put that back to where our correction is. Now, it does have some gaps that I'm not pleased with, and I'll show you quickly how to fix that. So I'll select now this character, and I'm looking at the stitch angles. I'm going to go ahead and remove the stitch angles that are there. I'm going to be adding some back, but well, I should let you see what was under there. I think we can see it by looking here. Look at all those. Isn't that crazy? So yeah, it's going to have some trouble, and it's doing its best to try to figure out what I want, but I wouldn't want that to slant down, because that's what's causing our gap. So the fastest way to fix it is to remove what's there, and I'm going to remove this one as well, and I'm doing that by touching. I'm pointing again, that does you no good. Select the node that you're of the direction. Well, it's not going to let me do it there. Let's try to add what I do want. So I've clicked on add stitch angles. Start one at the top, go basically straight down through it, and I'll touch enter on my keyboard. That's great. Let's get us another one. Let's take him straight across. Okay, now I've got beautiful mitered corners all the way around. Will it sew nicely? The thing to do is look at the length of the stitch. So I don't want to go beyond 7 or 8, 9. 9 is my max. Really, anything beyond that, and the stitch is going to be loose and may possibly pull out. So what I've done is I've touched M on my keyboard, and you know, you may feel like, oh, that's too much to remember. Well, the thing is, every time there's an update and things get moved around, I don't have to spend time hunting for them. I know my shortcuts. They're going to be the same. And so I can quickly get into this and finish a project. And yeah, when I've got an afternoon and I want to, you know, really learn where everything is, well, then I will spend time doing that. But if by knowing my shortcut keys, I can get straight to getting something done. That's the end of my soapbox. So I've got my measuring ruler up. I'm going to touch in the corner, and what I'm checking is how long is that stitch, and it's about 6 millimeters. I'm okay with that. So we'll now hit escape and escape again to get rid of the measuring tool. And I think this will be sewable, but just to be sure. And see, and this is doing some long and short for me around those corners, just like you would do in hand embroidery. So I'm fine with that. That's great. And let's watch it sew. There's our underlay, and notice it's covering that pretty well. Not much of a gap there. Yeah, it's coming on up. By me reducing that width with the pull comp, that may cause a little gap. So I may have to go back and get that pull comp just to basic again. But I'm not mad at that at all. I think it will sew pretty well. We'll have to test it and see. And then, so right now, let's see, put it at... I'm touching 1 on the keyboard. This is the actual size that this would sew. So she could use it on the front of a cap, or visor, left chest of a shirt. It could stand to be smaller for a jacket back, but what you would need to do is change all of your satin stitching to a fill stitch, so that it will launder and wear for some time other than just one-time wear. So I'm pretty pleased with it. I thought you'd enjoy it. Thanks for watching.